How much does it cost to make a PC in the RAM apocalypse? Now that is a bit of an extreme statement, but at the same time, it is starting to get a bit crazy in terms of pricing. Let's take a look at today at what it costs to really build a PC. Have parts increased in prices? Is it just the RAM, or are there other parts that have increased as well? And is there any hope for the future? Let's take a look just before a small word for our sponsor, Keysworlds.com. Thinking about building your new PC? Head over to Keysworlds.com. This is a site for cheaper Windows keys. They're actually a subsidiary of Keysfan.com, the same sponsor, but just a different website. They actually offer slightly cheaper keys than Keysfan.com, which is great to see, and to make it easier to purchase, you only need one code now, being BEZ25 for 25% off Windows 11 and Microsoft Office licenses, or even Office and Windows license bundles. I did test them as well to make sure that they have an easy checkout process by using code BEZ25 in the cart and a secure PayPal checkout as well. The key worked fine and came within 10 minutes. Keysworlds.com is currently having their Christmas sale, so make sure to go ahead and save on Windows and Microsoft Office licenses while using code BEZ25 with the link in the description. I'll see you over there at Keysworlds.com. So let's first take a look at my own PC, as that's a little bit easier for me to quantify and explain to you guys as well in terms of price changes and kind of what a higher end PC would look like. Not that mine is the most high end, but let's have a look at it. So let's head over to my PC part picker build, and I have a 7800X3D X870E Taichi Lite. We have 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 RAM, which I'll explain in just a second. And then we have a bunch of storage options because, I kind of needed it, and, it just adds up over time. Then we have an RX 9070 XT Taichi OC, and then we have the Corsair 5000D and a 1000 watt power supply as well. Now that total build is obviously a little bit overkill and not a normal gaming build, but it, at the moment, which is actually insane to me, comes to $6,187.15 New Zealand. Now that's a lot of money, and I did not spend even close to that for this build. Of course, it's accumulated parts over time, but a lot of this is more recent. So my 7800 X3D came from AliExpress. I believe it was around about 600 New Zealand. Obviously that's a good deal because in New Zealand they're expensive. The Taichi Lite sounds about correct. I believe I purchased it for about $850. We'll talk about RAM in a second. My GPU has dropped in price by probably around about $100 or so, which is nice to see. My case, I had got it a long time ago. And the power supply, the RMX 1000X, I believe I got that, I want to say for around about 250 NZD, but that was off Amazon, so it's not a direct comparison because these prices are in New Zealand dollar. And in New Zealand, we're limited to what options we have as well. So when we convert that over to USD, just to give you guys some context, that's $3,561 US. So a decent amount of money, and you could probably classify this as a higher end build if you'd like to. A lot of people would probably say that as well. Heading over to the RAM, and specifically the RAM situation, and this is the main thing what we're going to talk about in this video. In New Zealand, you can see that most options are just straight up out of stock. Like, look at this, like out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Like everything is just out of stock. There's nothing available. Supply is limited. Prices have gone up. It's actually insane. Like, like the cheapest you can get here would be $153 for a DDR5 5200 16 gigabyte stick, and that's just one. So not dual, not two DIMMs, just one. So bit concerning there. There is the one here, DDR5 6000, don't know the timings on it. That's a CL36. So it's okay. So you're paying a lot more at the moment and you're getting less value in terms of performance. So, like, it is difficult. You can see like a lot of kits, a lot of people I could probably see just getting 16 gigabytes instead of the standard 32 that honestly everyone should get 32 now. I mean, 16's okay, but it is a little bit difficult to manage on 16 gigabytes, especially in some more modern games or if you just use a lot of multitasking. So going over to my RAM kit, and this is what shocked me a bit. Now I knew prices were going up, but I didn't understand by how much. And for me, this was a bit obscene. So my current kit in my PC costs $812 New Zealand from PB Tech. And just the other day, it was in stock. That same kit of RAM is now not in stock, as you can see here, and you can see the price. It is a really good kit of RAM, CL30, DDR5 6000, the Trident Z Neo RGB. If you guys like RGB, it's a good kit of RAM. No problems with mine at all. So the price has shot up so much, it's almost unbelievable. Like, this is basically like a mid-tier graphics card price. Like, that is insane to me. So I'm quite shocked of how much the price increases are actually at the moment. And on top of that, if I just go back to my Amazon order, so this is the original Amazon listing. I purchased it on April 28, 2025 from Amazon.com, so Amazon US. I only paid 212 New Zealand dollars for that kit of RAM. That kit of RAM only costs 212 New Zealand dollars. Now, even at the time, if I go back to the listing, it was a good price. Like, even in New Zealand, I was saving like nearly $60, $70 or so. Like, it's like a decent amount. Like, from back then, you can see the same kit of RAM would cost me anywhere from 281 to 300 New Zealand dollars. Like, I did save a decent amount, but like, it's not the biggest. And that same kit of RAM back then in New Zealand dollars with GST and, there's no shipping added, but like GST cost or VAT was $122.17 US, to put it into context for you guys. So yeah, that is a huge increase for just one part of the PC. Just one part increase for me in my country, all the way from 300 that you could purchase it in New Zealand for, all the way up to 812 New Zealand dollars. And it's not even available anymore. And you can get it probably from, it's out of stock. Yeah, it's out of stock from every person that could have stocked it. That's crazy, right? That's a lot for just one part. And now let's go to the total cost of the PC. So at the moment, my PC is valued at $6,187.15, right? Okay, let's remove the RAM price, $812.30, because that's what it costs right now. And then let's just add back on what I paid for it. So we go all the way from that $6,187 price range right down to $5,587. That was my PC's value back then. And just to show you like an easy way to think about it, just of a percentage change calculator, it's a 11% increase in price. So yeah, the one part increased the value of the entire PC by 11%. And that's a lot. And I'm not gaining any performance by purchasing the same kit of RAM. It's the same kit of RAM. I'm not gaining more capacity. It's still 32 gigabytes. There's no difference. It's just the same. And let's head over to the RAM percentage increase. Now this was a percentage increase of 282%. Going all the way from what I purchased it at $212 to $812 is huge. Almost a 300% increase, right? Well, 282. That is a lot, right? Okay, now let's be fair. Let's say I purchased it for a cheaper price in New Zealand, by a decent amount. Let's put $2.99, because that's what it realistically cost in New Zealand for me to buy it, if I were to buy it, and to be fair with the places I'm getting it from. It's still a 172% increase. That's a lot, especially for one part and such a short amount of time. Yeah, it's not looking too great at the moment. I mean, like, the same price in US dollars, 812, that we're paying in New Zealand is probably a little bit inflated, because in New Zealand, again, we don't have much supply and retailers compared to overseas. So for us, that costs $467.54 to put it in US dollar perspective. So interesting that my PC is like this, and I just want to take that same kit of RAM and just run real quick through the other regions as well. So in the United States, from PC Part Picker, it still seems like there's a decent amount of stuff that's in stock, and that's just natural because of the region, right? But the prices do seem quite high. So, you know, like, you guys do have more options than us, but it does seem quite expensive at the same time. And we're just going to use the same kit of RAM for example. Now on Newegg, that costs $345.99 US, compared that to what we pay in New Zealand at the moment, $467. It makes sense, but hey, let's have a look at the price history chart. Look at this. From these suppliers here, I'm not sure who Memory C is. It says $156.75. and Newegg was $99.99, so $100 US. And today that has increased all the way up for Newegg to $345, on Amazon $529. Yeah, so that kit of RAM is very expensive, even in the US as well. Not as expensive as New Zealand, regional differences. And let's just have a look in the UK as well, just to add that all-round perspective. Yeah, in the UK, there's just not as many options as available as well. It's just everything seems to be out of stock, just not much available. It's not looking that nice. Like look at this. There's just so much out of stock. It is what it is, I guess. That same kit of RAM in the UK at the moment, 158.86 pounds, and from Newegg that's quite expensive, 334.79 pounds. But again, just looking at that price here, you know, in the UK, you could have got it for, like, let's say in April when I purchased mine from More Cocoa, sorry, I don't know who that is, 115 pounds. And in Newegg UK, you could have got it for 120 pounds. And today, that same kit of RAM from Newegg costs 358 pounds, from Clove Technology 162, 281.99 from More Cocoa, and you can see they're not even in stock. So, you know, could be due to the kit of RAM I'm explaining to you guys, but it was a good example to use across multiple regions. Now, even if we take that, so the 358 pounds, that's still $479 US. So a little bit more than what it costs in New Zealand, but that's also because they have less available. And my one, you can't even buy it in New Zealand. Like, it's just not there. So I want to get on to another thing here, is just memory price trends. And this is funny because the memory price increase is not only just for DDR5, but also DDR4 as well. Of course, not as extreme because DDR4 is older, hence it will be cheaper. And, you know, you can build secondhand easier around it as well. But yeah, I mean, look at these increases. Like, it's like towards the end of the year, it's quite exponential, right? Like, it increases at quite a fast rate. Like, even DDR4 3600, you know, it's just a steady, rapid increase in some cases. It's just over a really short amount of time. And, you know, you can just keep scrolling down. The links are all in the description. And it's quite bizarre to see how quickly it increases in price. Like, honestly, like, this is what I'd like to see for like a stock shot. Like, I invested early and then boom, it went up. Like, that would be amazing, but this is for something I'm paying for, which is not very good, right? Now we're reaching DDR5, we can see that the increases are even more. They look even more steep in some cases. DDR5 5200, DDR5 5600, like look at this in such a short amount of time, only like 4 months, right? That's really, really quick. DDR5 6000, a very popular kit of DDR5, so huge increase, right? So what we're getting to here is that RAM has really increased exponentially in price, and of course you already knew that, but it's good to justify that and actually see the actual numbers that change over time, and especially the graphs as well, that kind of give us a little bit of a background history. Now I'm going to pop onto a build here that I actually made for December, just quickly threw it together for New Zealand. Prices here are all in New Zealand dollar, please remember that. So for this December build, and please don't copy this, I don't think it's a very decent build, it's okay. What sketches me out the most with this build is the 16 gigabytes of DDR5 5600 for $291 from PBTech. Now that's a lot of money to spend just on 16 gigabytes of RAM alone. I mean, even something like SSDs I feel have also increased in price, and as we know, because of NAND flash issues, the graphics card has remained relatively stable. It's good to see that that's pretty much going to remain the same, I hope, but we'll see. We saw some rumors recently, so we'll address that soon. But this entire build comes to $2,016.29. So yeah, I mean, we get an okay build. I mean, the RAM is not ideal, especially at 16 gigabytes for paying for that much. But if you're going to build something like this today, this is probably something I'd slap together, but honestly, I wouldn't even recommend it. Definitely something to think about and to look for something secondhand and put that together instead of building something like this. $2,000 is a lot as well for this PC, and if we just check the RAM history price, look at this. We could have got it just only 65 days ago for $159 from PBTech. Yeah, so not a nice pill to swallow whatsoever. And I'll give you guys another example, and I think it's a really good example just from September. So in September, I did like a mass comparing pre-built PCs to the one that I put together, and we try to figure out which ones were the best value for money. And there's a bunch of builds in there if you guys want to have a look. I think it's a pretty decent resource. But this PC costs $2,000 in September 2025 when I put that video together. That same build today, it's all in stock, as I can see here, all the major retailers in New Zealand. It now costs $2,681. Like, come on. This same build, not just a couple of months ago, is now $681 more. It's crazy. This kit of RAM here, if you just have a look, like, okay, I'll be honest with you guys, a few parts have increased in price. So the SSD is not on special. It's expensive at the moment. It is currently anywhere around about 263 New Zealand dollars. So we can say around about September here, the cheapest you could get it was 173, 194, and I will admit there were some sales from these retailers at the time, just a couple, I believe. But you know, like looking at the price history chart, it was relatively flat, but it seems to have slowly increased, just like that. So yeah, SSDs have also increased in price from what I've seen. And then as well, I'm just acknowledging this as well, the case was a little bit expensive going forward. I think there was a sale for it, so that's also a little bit of a factor of why it went up, but it only went up by around about $50 or so, or $47. So here the main factor is this kit of RAM. Like, we see it again. Like back then, let's say anywhere in September, right? So around about like 200 New Zealand dollars, right? So like something like reasonable, especially for, that's 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6000 CL36. Not the best timings we have there, but that's okay. That same kit of RAM in stock right now is $690 from PBTech. $690 is insane. That is crazy to me. And yeah, I mean, in terms of these parts, we can see that stuff has increased, but yes, RAM and SSD, definitely the main culprits, it seems like here. And just going on to some news as well, we have found as well like a pretty strong rumor. It seems like that Nvidia is rumored to cut supply for Geforce cards next year. So it could be anywhere from 30 to 40%. And please keep this in mind, this is just a rumor at the moment. You know, there could be multiple reasons for this. There could be just predicting that consumer demand will be down for consumer graphics cards. Maybe they want to make sure that they're maximizing revenue by cutting supply. There could be multiple reasons as to why this is happening. It could be also the fact that VRAM is in limited supply going forward. It's something, you know, they build the entire PCB and then like they just have a graphics card just sitting there waiting for VRAM, so they won't be able to sell it. But yeah, I mean, it is a rumor at the moment, so it's not looking good for PC gaming. And then as well, there's not many manufacturers for RAM, of course. There's Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung, I believe, just the three. And yeah, Micron said that they're actually going to exit out from consumer business. So yeah, interesting times we have here. We still have SK and we still have Samsung, but yeah, they're transitioning more, I believe, to the HMB AI suited kind of things for enterprise, which makes sense in terms of maximizing their own revenue and taking advantage of the current market. But for consumers, this is just not a good place to be. Now, I want to be clear here as well with this video. This is not to fearmonger or scare people. It's just to give insight as to what's actually happening and to actually document what we've seen today. Because, you know, it's easy to get lost like a year down the line and be like, oh, it kind of like worked out. But sometimes it's easy to forget as well how bad it was. I do feel like this is even worse than the graphics card shortage in 2020. This feels pretty bad, especially coming from a year of where PC parts were actually not that bad to pick up. And especially like on mid-tier graphics cards, the 9060 XT, I feel personally was quite a good buy. I mean, CPUs had been relatively cheaper, I feel. And in my own bias, it did feel like a decent time to buy a lot of PC parts. But unfortunately, at the moment, it's not like that at all. So advice on what to do. This is just going to be my own personal bias and experience. So I'll tell you how it is from my side. Hold off on major upgrades, like a full system upgrade, DDR4 to DDR5 system, you know, the AM4 to AM5, for example. Hold off on it for a little while. I don't think you should be being ripped off on a part of the PC that's not going to be the most enjoyable in terms of an upgrade for gaming computers. That's my own personal opinion about that. As well, I think it's a time to really hone in on your skills for second-hand buying if you're not used to it. You're going to have to really target what you want, and you're going to have to find acceptable price ranges to be at and be aggressive in the market in terms of getting something for yourself if you really, really need to. If you're building brand new, I feel really bad for you, and honestly, it's not a great time to build, just because of that RAM and as well the SSDs. And it does seem as well at the same time that graphics cards might go up in price next year, so please be aware of that, and that the next best time to buy will probably be the end of this year, and going forward you probably won't get that great an opportunity to actually buy something that's decent value for money. Now, that's in terms of the brand new market. Now, of course, the second-hand market, I could assume, is now going to get some more attention. So cards that were previously a little bit cheaper, and I'd assume maybe like the 6700 XT, the 6800 XT, that were kind of, you know, just sitting there, might get a little bit more expensive now, but they might be some good buys especially if you want to buy on a budget and at 1080p as well for your target resolution. So that's the best I can give for that type of advice. But honestly, guys, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's worth it to pay a higher price for something that's not going to arguably give you that much better of an experience specifically for gaming. And as well, you know, like the graphics card shortage, just going back to that example, was bad, but I don't feel it was as bad as this. And at the same time, a graphics card obviously will net you something better in terms of performance and what you're seeing on screen compared to what RAM would, or, you know, an SSD would, for example, if you already have an SSD. It's just one of those things where you have to really weigh it up and see what you want to do. Like if I were desperate to build a computer today and I just had to build something today, I would do this. I would buy from AliExpress. I'd buy my CPU from AliExpress, something like a 7500F. If I can't do that, in the secondhand market, I would look for a decent DDR4 base system, so something like a 5600 for the CPU. For the RAM as well, I would buy something secondhand. I would not pay any exorbitant prices for RAM. In terms of GPU, I think it's a good time to buy GPUs like even brand new right now. The 9060 XT is a really good price range and price point for that, like a decent graphics card. Like it depends on what games you play, right? But for me, like I would target that GPU pretty heavily, especially if I'm leaning into more AAA games. And then on top of that as well, like finding deals where I need to, like the case I can compromise. Do I really need a case? You do need a case. You can get something secondhand. Power supply is probably something I'd buy brand new. Generally, I don't think prices have been too bad for power supplies at the moment. I'd reconsider things like aesthetics or RGB. But yeah, just to save costs wherever possible, I don't think it's reasonable to pay exorbitant prices for these type of parts any day of the week. But that's what I would do. It's just a combination of different places to buy from, secondhand and brand new. That's exactly what I would do. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. It's a little bit of a kind of introspective look into things, kind of looking at numbers and my own thoughts and feelings on it. Pretty unscripted, and I hope it's felt good for you guys to watch. But yeah, how do you guys feel about building a PC right now in the kind of RAM apocalypse? Not in like a bad way, but you know, it kind of is what it is. Let me know in the comments. Also make sure to check out Keysworlds.com for cheaper Windows keys. Use code BEZ25 for 25% off their Windows keys and Office licenses. Check out wisетech.org for some more awesome content. But other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.